I've worked at NASA for almost 30 years. Long enough that I got to see the ISS get put in orbit. It's generally regarded as one of the best things we've ever done. And I agree, the amount of scientific data, discovery, disaster observation, it's just priceless. We'd all be living in a worse world without that hunk of metal orbiting our planet. It's a strange feeling to see everyone talking about taking it out of the sky. On one hand, the thing is getting pretty old. It was built for 15 years of operation, but it's been functional for 21 now. On the other, well, a little sentimental. Maybe all the talk of dismantling it is making me feel old. Pretext first. There are many things I'm not going to tell you about myself for obvious reasons. But I can tell you my experience with NASA. They're very open about things, inside the agency as well as outside. A lot of people like to think NASA is holding some serious secrets, but that's just not true. Sometimes you can't walk 20 ft without hearing a young excited scientist nerding out about some new discovery or theory to their colleague. Management puts it how it is because in this line of work everyone needs to know, and if anyone miscalculates it can mean disaster. All big scientific discoveries are put on paper within 24 hours and released to the public. You all get the picture. Point is, in 30 years of working here, I've never encountered much dishonesty unless a politician walked in the door. I know everyone really well, and we get along just fine. Recent events have changed everything. The excited chatter has mostly stopped. The US government has people in suits crawling all over the place. And the higher-ups obviously haven't gotten sleep since it was announced that the ISS was to be decommissioned. Despite all this, we're to continue like it's business as usual. But every now and then one of us will get called up for an interview with the suits. Sometimes they'd be gone for a few minutes. Sometimes they'd be gone for hours. But when they returned to work, we'd all ask what was going on. Every time we'd get the same answer. The suits would bring them into a room with a table, ask them some confusing, uncontextual questions, then let them go. It's not hard for us to connect the dots. Something happened in regards to the ISS. Most of us are closed off from upper management now. And those who can talk to them have that look in their eye, the look begging you not to talk to them. But they can't tell you not to. Everyone else is as confused as I am. And work has slowed to a crawl. Occasionally we'll get an exciting announcement that renews our wondrous exploratory child brains. But for the most part it's become dreary. A few days and I got pulled into a room with the suits. There were a lot of formalities to get through, like my name, age, place of birth, etc. But then the questions started. Their demeanor changed on a dime as soon as the first word was spoken. And given what that question was, I would have laughed if I hadn't been dragged into a room with government agents. What is your opinion on the color green? I didn't know how to respond at first. But eventually I said, I guess it's an okay color. I mean, it's not my favorite, but it's nice. I remember feeling like I was back in elementary school with the entire class talking about what color was the best. It was awkward, and due to the situation, quite jarring. Bello, I've got the rest of the questions and my responses that I remember. Agent, do you have any aspirations besides working at NASA? Me, I've got a bucket list. Skydiving, seeing the world, that kind of thing. Agent, and do you believe you will come to complete that bucket list? Me, well, yeah. Gotta retire at some point, right? Agent, good. Do you wish upon falling stars? Me, what? No, that's ridiculous. Agent, if you did, is there anything you'd wish for? Me, well, I dunno. Biological immortality. Agent, do you hang posters in your room? Me, not since I was a kid. No. Agent, what is one thing you consider objectively good? Me, kittens. I said it in jest, of course. Sometimes I try and break tension with a little comedy, and it was out of my mouth before I knew what I was saying. Even so, I at least expected a slight smile before I was scolded. But the only thing the agent did was straighten his tie and repeat the question with a somehow even more serious look. Me, fine. Making sure those around you live their best lives. I suppose. Agent, you suppose. Me, no, I figure of. No, that doesn't apply. Listen, this is awkward. I stick by what I said. Final answer. Can we move on? It was at this point I realized that when the agent had straightened his tie, it had changed from a formal back to a dark green. Either the agent had just pulled a magic trick with the smoothness of someone from Vegas, or I just hadn't realized it had been green the entire time. The brain has a tendency to find patterns and lie to you. So in that moment I brushed it off. But the other two agents in the room still had black ties on. Agent, yes, we can. Tell me, what is sound? Me, well, airwaves, specifically vibrations. Right now when you speak you are sending air particles crashing into each other, sending them to me, and my ears are picking it up. Agent, do you mind if we take your temperature? Me, no. I had mine taken at the door, but I guess you can hear too. It was true. The agents had been taking everyone's temperature at the door these days. I didn't know why they'd need to do it a second time, but I wasn't about to argue. One of them walked over and used an unbranded digital temperature gun. After they had finished, the agent nodded to the others and I was escorted back to my floor and told to have a pleasant day. I was bombarded with questions from my colleagues, as was everyone else who got interviewed, but I didn't really have much of anything new to say. After that day, I started doing a bit of investigating. I had only been interviewed for a few minutes, so I started asking for specifics from those who had been taken for far longer. As far as the questions themselves go, I had no luck. They were still ridiculous. Things like, have you tasted dog water or have you ever gone hiking? But there were some consistencies too. When I brought up the green tie, they said they saw the same, but brushed it off for the same reasons I did. The temperature check. It happens at the end of every interview to everyone regardless of time. But for those who got interviewed for over an hour, there was another through line. All of them were asked what the International Space Station was to them. At this point, I knew for absolute certain that something was being kept from us regarding the ISS. No more rumors. No more speculation, no more conspiracy theories. The agents were interested in our space station too. I had to get to the bottom of this, so I contacted the guys in charge of doing the math for weight on the next supply run to the ISS. Did I mention they're still sending things up there? Because they are. Apparently they were in a tough spot. Usually you know exactly what is going into space. You have to for literally hundreds of safety reasons. But the agents had been interfering since they appeared. They'd say that something new had been added to the list, tell them the weight, and then inform them that they needed to update their math to include the mystery item. It was so against code that they'd tried to take it up to management several times. But every time management shot them down. I was told that one guy was considering quitting in protest due to how unsafe just randomly adding unknown things to a spacecraft was. But the next day someone else showed up in his position. The kid was friendly, excited, and under the impression the position had been left vacant for a while. He had no idea he'd just replaced someone. I tried to get into contact with the person who was fired, but no dice. The phone number must have been bad, and I didn't know him well enough to get in contact any other way. Decided given the situation it was a bad idea for me to do so anyways. Those agents kept giving me stares when I started asking for his number, but I'd been working there for 30 years. And I had my contacts. Decided to hit up some of the old ISS crew members. I was buddy-buddy with a few of them, even taking them out for drinks on occasion. I had been joking with a few of them not even a few months ago. And while our current predicament probably had nothing to do with them, I had to be certain. I went through every single number, but they all went to voicemail. I know people sometimes change their numbers, but all of them. I branched out beyond the US, wasn't too close to these guys, but I'd still shared a beer with a few of them. Still nothing, not a peep, nothing but the robotic voice telling me to leave a message after the tone. At this point I got anxious. Not a single ISS astronaut was answering the phone. I knew where a few of them lived and started compiling the addresses. But while searching them up I came across their pages. They all have Google profiles, of course, but now all of them had death dates. I sat there shocked as I saw my co-workers, friends, and associates all described as having died while in the woods, in gas explosions, car accidents. Even a serial killer had gotten one of them. I read into that one, by the way. Someone had broken into their home. Family of 4. I'll spare you the details, but by the time police arrived it was too late for any of them. Allegedly the killer was high on several narcotics and died of overdose while being arrested. Several murders had been linked to him after the fact. I was shocked and heartbroken. No one had ever told me. And the way the guy went out was devastating. But then I looked at the date of the murder. I had to check my calendar. But there it was. I had taken the astronaut, his family, and several co-workers out to a movie not 3 days after the article said he died. It was to celebrate his full recovery after staying on the ISS so long. Things didn't line up, and while most of the death dates made sense, some others didn't correlate with my calendar either. After I compiled all their addresses, I took a look at the properties. All of them were closed down due to one thing or another. Gas leak had burned one down. One of them had left a stove on. A local forest fire had destroyed another. Every single house was gone. At this point I had to see it all with my own eyes. After work the next day I went on a half-hour drive to one of the closer residences. It had been a month or so, but the property was owned by one of my closer buddies, so it wouldn't be too strange to see me around the area. Sure enough, the house was a smoldering ruin. Didn't even look like it had happened that long ago. Maybe a day at most. There was even a fire truck still outside with firefighters sorting through it all. I was going to pull up and ask them what happened, but then I spotted the black van across the way. More government agents. I didn't want to be seen there, so I just drove by like anyone else would and didn't make eye contact. Could have been my paranoia. But I swore I could feel their gaze burning into the back of my skull. Now I knew. Every single ISS crewmate was gone under mysterious circumstances. I think it's the government itself. But I don't understand why. I'd like to believe they aren't actually dead. Just in a holding cell somewhere until this all blows over. But I just don't know. To make matters worse, I was approached at work the next day. Agents, of course. They didn't bring up any specifics. Just said the same thing they'd been saying from day one. Don't interfere with their business and everything will be just fine. Then they left, and the day continued as per usual. Scared me half to death though. My mind was running through the possibility that they were going to make me disappear too. And it took every ounce of mental strength I had not to look like I was caught. Not even sure I did look normal that day, to be honest. I had lost a lot of sleep and was living off of coffee. As of now, rumors about weapons being smuggled onto the ISS are circulating. No one is allowed to go to the upper floors now. And people are starting to get replaced faster and faster. One of my colleges who's been doing some investigating of his own said he looked at the ISS through his telescope and swears to God that it was spinning out of control and half covered in something black. Took a look myself. But I couldn't find the station at all. It's definitely not on its projected orbital path. No one outside the agency is talking about this. For all the public knows, NASA plans to decommission the ISS in 2031 and land its remains on Point Nemo, which I will add is the furthest point from human civilization on the planet. They even denied letting museums keep pieces of it, opting to just get rid of the darn thing. I'm too afraid to go to the press about it too. I don't want to be replaced because I'm pretty sure everyone who does isn't just going back home unemployed. And those agents, they've asserted even more control. I pretty much directly report to them now. And they're the only ones who go upstairs. No one has seen anyone from upper management in weeks. To make matters worse, I haven't even seen the agents express a hint of remorse. Or any emotion really. It's just the stone cold stare 24/7. I'm starting to think they're robots. I'm also starting to think I'm going crazy. Like I've been cooped up in a cage for too long with eyes on me at every waking moment. Does anyone have any idea what's going on? I need to get out of this before I end up in a cell. Or worse, I think they know I'm looking into it. And I don't know what I'm going to do. My friends are gone along with half my colleagues. I just feel helpless.